Oh, amazing Careblazers. Let's get it going. So excited for today. Just getting my screen view up and going. I just sent the email out, so everybody should be having the specific link to join right now. And I'm just going to get my screen set up. Hi, Don. Look at you. 11 o'clock at night showing up again. Impressive. I hope you're feeling okay and rested enough and rejuvenated. Here we go. Good to go. Yes, we are. Hello, 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 everybody coming in. Welcome. Is this thing working? Terry says, I hope so. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Yes, it is. Okay, Terry says, yes, yes, it is. Perfect. Somebody messaged me earlier. They were on an iPad yesterday and they couldn't figure out how to see the video. I don't know if any of you are on an iPad, if you can see the video in the chat. She could see the chat, but she wasn't able to see the video. Hi, Kevo. Hi, Rusty. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Kim. Hi, Don. Hi, Terry. Hi, Donna. Donna. What a game. I know I talked about that yesterday. I still can't get over it. Beverly. Hello. Joanne. Hi, Elaine. Welcome, everybody. Are you ready? Are you ready for this day? We're going to start at the top of the hour, just coming in early so everybody gets the email, knows exactly where to be. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Jeanette. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Linda. Look at all of you. You guys are so amazing. Let me make sure. Yep. Okay, we're good to go. We're good to go here. Looking forward to tonight. I'm so glad. Yes. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Lucinda. Totally understand. Get your sleep. Dawn is here too from the UK. So both of you are some late night owls happening for this training. Hi, Mina. Hi, Matt. Okay, here's Michelle. Can anyone help me? I'm trying to start the video, but it's not working. I'm using my iPad. Can anybody help Michelle? Is anybody watching this from an iPad? What would she need to do to be able to see the video? If anybody can help her, respond to her comment there. It's the Michelle Wrightham. Hi, Renee from Kansas. You've been working on your sister. I'm so excited. Oh, you're another sibling couple there. You're working on your homework with your sister who is also taking this course. I have been sharing what I'm learning with my husband and daughter as well. We all help my mom directly, or they provide support for me. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that, Renee, that you're going through it with your sister and that you're sharing it with other family members and that they're open to hearing it. That's great. Hi, Jan. Jan, are you on my Instagram? Your little face there looks familiar. I feel like I saw you today. Hi, Judy. Hi, Joe. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Kayla. Cheryl says she's on an iPad. So Cheryl, you can hear me and see the comments on an iPad. I wonder what Michelle needs to do for that. Jan says, I am. Yes. Okay. Your photo looks familiar. Okay, Michelle, Dawn says, I'm watching from my iPad. I just clicked on the link and the video came straight away. Michelle, if you can read the screens, Cheryl's trying to help you. Hopefully that works. So we're going to start in 2 minutes, Careblazers. But in the meantime, while we wait to get started in today's training, I just want to say a couple of things because I was looking through your comments in the group, going through everything you guys have been submitting. You guys have been commenting. You've been reaching out to me directly. And I want to say what I'm talking about in this challenge, a lot of it, it's pretty simple, right? I think we would probably all agree, like yesterday was probably a pretty simple concept. but they're not commonly practiced. So what I'm sharing today are things that, or in this whole challenge, some of the stuff you may have never heard before, like maybe today. Some of the stuff maybe you have heard before, but there is a big difference between hearing something, like understanding it logically, and then actually being able to practice it, actually being able to make room for it in your life, actually being able to accept it in your life. That's a huge difference. And from, starting yesterday through the end of this 10 days, I hope all of you are going to be moving closer and closer to just opening up room to accept what situation we are in and figuring out how do we want to move through it. I have a black screen with the usual white arrow to start a video with. Nothing is happening when I, don't know, Michelle. Do you have a phone or a computer you can join from? All right. Oh, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to get started today. Kristen says, my sixth graders would have this iPad thing all figured out. Tell me about it. Let me tell you. If you think caregiving is hard, sometimes just figuring out the tech stuff is hard, right? It's like, gosh, I don't know, like our brains just don't work so easily with this stuff. Versus the kids, they've grown up on it, right? Okay. So today we're talking about we're not talking about the 50, we're talking about your reasons. We're talking about your reasons for caregiving. So before I get started, what I was saying is, let's recap on yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about the 50-50. This is one of the most important concepts I could ever share with anybody, right? We all know there's going to be challenges. We all know life doesn't go the way that we want, yet we all get worked up in arms when things aren't going the way that we want. So was it just about like accepting it, accepting the reality of life, accepting the facts of life that there's good and bad, and then not getting upset with ourselves when maybe we react a way we're not proud of. Maybe we feel a way we don't want to feel, right? That's where the suffering comes in. We talked about the suffering. So let me know in the comments, were you able to practice this? Did you have a situation where you would consider it negative, you didn't really like it, and you were able to notice it, number one, right? Maybe you were able to just accept it, acknowledge it, like this is the -50, this is where we are. And then for sure, we didn't like beat ourselves up any further. Because when we think about it, like the hard situations are hard enough. The unfortunate situations are unfortunate enough. We don't need to make it any more difficult by talking about and beating ourselves up that it's happening, right? We could just accept that it's happening. That's hard enough, right? Versus everything we layer on top of it. So, nope, you didn't miss. Eileen, we just started. I joined early. We literally just started. Had such a better attitude in general today. Yes, Beth, isn't it amazing? And notice, like, and Linda says, stayed much calmer rather than reacting to the situation. Exactly. And Careblazer, that's just day one. We have not literally changed anything. We haven't changed anything about your situation. We haven't changed your loved one. We haven't changed the world around us. We haven't changed internet tech problems, right? But notice how you were more calm, how you had a better attitude, right? Janice, feeling so much better today. Yes, right? It's mind-blowing once we really realize, wait a minute, why am I giving all of my power away to all of these circumstances outside of me that I have zero control over, when I can just decide, I'm gonna decide to accept what is this world. I'm gonna decide not to make myself feel worse for what is the world. And I'm just gonna allow myself to feel whatever I feel. Because if you spend your whole time and your whole life trying to get everybody to get in line with what you want, you are going to be burned out, stressed out, drained, strained, with very limited relationships around you, right? Oh, love this. Debbie says, yes, mom woke up with no bottoms on. I just sighed and said, this is life, and gave her clothes to put on. Now think about that. Like, this is really huge, because what you could have done in your mind is you could have said, again, why can't she just get her clothes on? I don't need to start my day this way. I don't need this challenge today. Why can't I just have one easy morning? right? You could have easily done that, Debbie, but you didn't. Instead, you said, this is life. And then you gave her the clothes to put on. Notice how much easier that is for you. Notice how much more allowing that is for you. That's huge. So kudos to you, Debbie. Kudos to everybody who practiced this, to Lisa, to Donna, yes, to Jeffrey. Lauren, I was calmer today when I called my mom, didn't get annoyed by the repetition. Yes. And if you did, let's say tomorrow you end up getting annoyed by the repetition, you won't beat yourself up for being annoyed. You'll just accept, man, this is the -50 of today, right? So glad you're on, Michelle. Yes. Instead of stopping what I was doing, I finished and then changed my husband's diaper, says Janet. I love that. I just accepted my loved one's urinary incontinence accident as part of the -50. Beautiful. What's the alternative if you don't? That's a question to also ponder, Careblazers. What's the alternative if you don't accept the -50? You just stay in fighting and resistance and defensiveness forever, right? It's like, that doesn't help us at all. So I love that you did that. And I also love, Janet, that you took a moment to just finish what you were doing. Sometimes we like react so quickly because we're not even like paying attention to our mind and what truly is an emergency, that it is okay sometimes to be like, you know what, I'm just going to finish exactly what I'm doing. Cheryl says, I put up 2 signs that say 50-50. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right, love it. So today, I'm so glad, Careblazers, thank you for practicing what we're talking about. That's what I want you to do moving forward, okay? Not just listening and hearing and understanding, but like applying it to your life. That's where all the magic is going to happen. Today, Careblazer, you promised you're gonna come with an open mind, right? You promised I could test you a little bit. There's a reason I don't share this publicly on my YouTube channel. I share this with people who have raised their hand and who are committed to making Careblazing easier. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Today is day number 2. Again, remember, everything's a foundation. What I'm sharing with you today, I'm putting right away in day number 2 because I think it's so important, because so many of us feel like we have to be caregiving, right? And so I'm going to push on that a little bit today. I'm going to ask you to open your mind. I'm going to ask you to be honest and share what is going through your mind, but we're going to put this to rest today. So I want you to stay open when what I'm saying sounds hard, okay? Because if there's anything harder than what I'm going to share with you today, it's feeling like you have no choice and like you're forced to do this, okay? So let me just ask, how many of you right now, truly be honest, feel like you have to care for your loved one with dementia? Feel like you have no choice? Feel like the reason you're caring for your loved one is because nobody else will, right? That, like, I want to know if that is going through any of your minds. And what I want to say, and the hard part to hear, I'm not advocating for this, but this is just for purposes of this lesson today, is, did you know that you actually don't have to care for your loved one today? Yeah, listen to Liz. I felt trapped today. Totally. Yep, I do. I do. Yes, 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 I do. Right. Yes. Michelle says, I have a choice, but I refuse to take it. Almost 100%. Yes, I do. Me. Yes. Totally, I do. So, right. This is why this is day number 2. I would say the majority of Careblazers I work with who are like feeling resentful in their situation, feeling frustrated and upset about their situation, it's because they haven't got this part down, okay? You do not have to care for your loved one with dementia. Whatever situation that you're in, you don't have to care for them, right? So to give some examples of things people think they have to do in the world that they don't actually have to do. Like, let's take, for instance, taxes. Tax season's coming up, right? People think they have to pay taxes, right? Obviously, we would probably all think that, right? But there are people in the world who don't. What happens to those people? Well, for those people, they're not going to be able to get a loan. They're probably not going to be able to get health insurance. They might not be able to ever live on the grid. They have to live off the grid. They're not going to be able to get electricity. They have to worry about getting caught and put in jail, right? Same thing with raising kids. A lot of us would think, well, we have to raise kids. We have to feed our kids. We have to clothe our kids, right? But there are people out there who don't. That's why we have things like child protective services in place, right? Because there are some people out there who do not do this, right? But what would happen if you didn't do that? You might go to jail, you might go to prison, you might get fined, the kids might be taken away from you, right? And so let's apply this to caregiving. What would happen if you did not, you can write this in the comments. What would happen if you did not care for your loved one with dementia? What would be the alternative? What would happen? If all of a sudden you just disappeared tomorrow, what would happen to your loved one with dementia? Yes, Nancy was like, well, who else would care for him besides the wife? Michelle says he'd go to a senior facility. There's no one else in the, if not me, who? There's no one else in the family to do it. Yeah, that's so common. He would go to a facility, he would be in a home, the daughter would be responsible, he'd go into assisted living and it wouldn't be appropriate. And he would go onto a crisis list for long-term care, be put into a home, another family member might step in. Right. And so I've worked in a variety of different hospital settings. And one of the last settings I worked in was in home-based primary care, where I traveled home to home to home of patients and helped them in their home, hopefully with their family as well. But a lot of people didn't have family. A lot of their family either, like, I remember one patient, to find family was impossible. We tried to track down any family we could and we couldn't, disappeared, no tricks, right? And so some of these patients were living in a home where it was not safe for them anymore to be living alone. There was no family to call on, nobody to talk to. Their refrigerator had barely any food in it, or it was rotted, right? They are basically sitting in their own filth, not able to change, not able to shower, not able to do all these things. Like, I witnessed this with my own eyes. This is happening every single day. It breaks my heart, right? So those are people in situations where nobody raised their hands to say that they're doing it, right? But that is an option. I remember too, when I used to work in the actual hospital setting, around the holiday season, it becomes quite popular for family members who want a break, who want a vacation, who are desperate for help and don't know how to get it, where they would just leave the person right out in front of an emergency room. This happens. You may have seen, some of you may have read news articles on it or seen it on the news, right? And there are people who do this. And then after the holidays are over, somebody comes by and says, looking for my mom, or they finally get tracked down and the person finds them and they go back to where they were, right? There are people with family members who have dementia who are choosing not to care for that family member, right? That is not you, but you have to acknowledge you are choosing to do so. So why? Like Careblazer, we all accept you have to care for a loved one with dementia. You can literally leave them like some of these other people do. You can drop them in front of an emergency room. You can never show up to the house again. You can go off and escape to the other side of the world and never show up again. I know none of you would do that, but realize like that is a possibility. There are some people who might just call up and say, you know what, I'm out, I'm moving, I'm getting my own apartment, you're on your own, right? People do this every single day. So that is an option. But what I want to offer to all of you is you don't want that option. You don't want to be left with the idea of your loved ones suffering alone. You don't want to be left with the consequences of adult protective services coming and chasing you down and wondering what's going on. You maybe don't want to go to jail for like neglect or abuse. You maybe don't want to live with the guilt that you might have from knowing that you weren't there for a loved one, right? These are things like you're making the choice to care for your loved one with dementia because you are choosing the challenges and the consequences that come with caring for your loved one over the consequences of anything else, right? Now, for those of you caring for somebody and you love it and you know your reasons, like some of you have told me, I'm caring for my loved one because that's the right thing to do, or I'm caring for my loved one because I love that person, or I know they would do the same for me, or because that was our wedding vows and I stand by it, right? Some of you have reasons like that you feel good about. Let me know if you're one of those people that you're like, I care for my loved one, I choose to care for my loved one, and I know it, right? That's a whole set of people. That's great. Know your reasons for caring for your loved one. For the other group of people who are feeling trapped, like there is no choice, like you can't do anything, we have to know your reason. You have to know your reason for caring for your loved one, and it cannot be because you have to, because You don't. You can literally just move tomorrow somewhere else. You can literally leave them alone tomorrow else. When you tell yourself you have to, think about how that feels to you. For the person, like for one of you, you said trapped. It feels like you're trapped. It feels like you're a prisoner. It feels like you have no choice, right? As we get going in this challenge, we're going to discover just how you think is causing the hardship and struggle and pain in caregiving. Incredibly so, right? And one of the very biggest things we have to address right away on day number 2 is that nobody has to caregive. Nobody has to. So why are you doing it? Why are you? Because if you feel like you have to, every single strategy or tip or dementia care approach we go from here on out is going to be that much harder, right? The next challenge that comes up, the time they accuse you of something that's not true, when they call you a mean name or don't really show you appreciation, it makes it so much harder because here you are feeling stuck that you have to care for somebody who maybe doesn't care for you back, or who isn't treating you right, or maybe who has never treated you right? So for those of you who are feeling like, I actually had somebody reach out to me recently. I'm trying to figure out where they reached out to me, but I think it was on Instagram today. Somebody said, you use the word loved one with dementia, but what happens when you don't really feel like they're a loved one, right? Some of you might be in that position where you're caring for this person, but you wouldn't really consider them a loved one, really. Maybe you didn't have the greatest relationship growing up, right? So for you, what's your reason for caring for your loved one? It's probably not because they gave good care to you. It's probably not because they took such great care of you raising you when you were a child, or they were such a loving spouse and were there for you through thick and thin. That's probably not your reason. So don't try to force your reason to be a reason other people say that sounds good, right? That's not going to work. That's a lot of what this challenge is going to talk about moving forward too, is like, let's make sure we're not just saying sentences in our head that we've heard other people say and we think we're supposed to feel that way, or we think we're supposed to think that way because that's like the thing to think, or that's what a good caregiver would think. No, that we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to be truthful with ourselves. And when I say we have to be honest and truthful with ourselves, first we have to realize we're not forced to do anything. Like adults can do what they want to do, right? There are some adults right now living in a home with somebody with dementia who's probably drunk right now and not even giving care to that person. I've been in homes where the caregiver for that person with dementia wiped out the entire life savings and bank account and then left without a trace. I've seen it all, right? So you are not forced to do anything. You can make this decision. So for those of you who are struggling to come up with your reason, think about it right now. Why are you doing it? Let's see. It's Dementia Careblazers, Dementia_Careblazers, Kayla. Yes. He was there for me in crisis. He is not an angry patient. I know my reason. It's my purpose in life. I'm a caregiver, always have been. Yes. Yes. Anybody here feeling like they don't have a reason, a good reason? What if I feel trapped and I choose to care for my loved one? So you feel trapped because of your thinking, right? So you're choosing to, so that's a good, let's just replace that. Like, I am choosing to care for my loved one, right? Like, how does that thought make you feel when you think I'm choosing to do this? At any moment I can stop. At any moment I can leave. At any moment I can disappear, right? Somebody says, I don't want my children to have to be the ones responsible. So here's the key. You have to know your reason. What is your reason you're caring for your loved one? That's one, right? And it cannot be that you have to. But number two, Careblazer, this is really important. You have to like your reason. It can't just be a reason you've heard other people say. It just can't be a reason you think you're supposed to say. It has to be something that you like. Do you like your reason for caring for your loved one with dementia? Oh, what's happening here? So when most people think that they have to care for somebody, they're going to feel trapped. They're going to feel resentful. But when you think I'm choosing to care for my loved one with dementia, how do you feel? You might not feel great and happy. Don't mistake what I'm saying. remember, there's still a negative 50 of life. Not every thought is supposed to lead to like some super amazing positive feeling. But when you think I have to versus I choose to, how do you feel? Right? And so some of you who maybe didn't have the greatest relationship with the person you're caring for, you have to ask yourself, why are you caring for them? Maybe it's because you want to be a better version of yourself. Maybe it's because you want to show up for family and family means more to you than it did for them. Maybe it's because you want to be a good example for your kids and how family is supposed to be there for one another, unlike your parent was for you, right? Maybe it's because you really want to show up as a human being who lives in loving and compassion and kindness, even if the other person doesn't, right? Like, what is your reason? Yeah, my love for him is why. Choice is empowering. I want him to be safe and okay. I choose to care for my husband. I care for my mom in spite of all the difficulties. I cherish the additional times I had with her. Yes, I'm concerned for him if something happens to me. Yes, exactly. That's why one of the days, I think maybe day 8, we talk about how are we going to start taking care of you, right? Because if you're not here, look what I asked all you guys. What would happen if your loved one was not, if you were gone, if you just disappeared and you decided not to care? Most of you said your loved one would be going into a home, be on some crisis with someone to go to a home, right? Yes, Diana says, I choose to give back that love. That's beautiful. I do it because I love him. Wonderful. My husband's not an angry person. He has also cared for me through cancer, surgery, serious falls. It's what we do. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I took a vow when we got married. I don't feel trapped at all. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm a caregiver and problem solver. Rarely I feel a victim, but mostly when I'm tired. And just allow that, Robin, right? Like, during the times you feel to be a victim, just allow it without the judgment and say, this is the time I just want to feel sorry for myself. Like, it's totally okay, right? Thank you for phrasing it this way. I'm choosing this journey. I love my mom even in tough times. Yeah. And like, you love your mom, but you may not love everything your mom does, right? Careblazer, like, maybe you love the person with dementia and that's why you care for them. It doesn't mean you love every challenge. It doesn't mean you love every situation. It doesn't mean you love what they are saying or doing in that moment. Because I can't live with the consequences of not caring for my mother-in-law. She deserves to have someone in her corner as she goes on this journey. I try to show up for her the way I would like someone to show up for me if I had dementia. Beautiful, Marva, right? So for you, just thinking about living with the consequences of not caring for her, that is a reason. So you have to ask yourself, Marva, do you like that reason? And if so, beautiful. Don't want my children to be responsible. Yes, financial pressures are often at play, right, Lonnie? Like, that's financial pressures is a big one. Like, some people would say, well, if I could afford 24/7 care, or if I could afford to have my loved one placed in a good facility, I wouldn't be caregiving, right? But you still have the choice to just totally up and leave. You still have the choice to put your loved one in the very bottom low level facility. You still have the choice to have your loved one in your home and just do what you want to do and leave and go shop or hang out with friends or go on vacation, right? These options and ideas don't ever cross your mind because you're Careblazers, but they're there. People are doing them every day in, day out, right? That's not something you want. So you have to realize, like, when you say you don't want to be in the situation of caregiving, you actually want to be in it more than the situation of the consequences that will happen if you're not. Does that make sense? Am I saying that clearly? Like, you're choosing the consequence of the hardship. You're choosing the consequence of the sacrifice and the time and the energy and all the challenges over the consequence of knowing your loved one might not have good care, knowing your loved one might be scared and not know what to do, knowing that you know, your loved one might be harmed or laying on the floor without somebody there to help them. You're choosing your hard, right? Because I'm a good human. Beautiful. Yes. Yes. In sickness and in health, doing it out of love. Yes, yes, yes. He was there for me. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. So Careblazer, I'm not seeing, surprisingly, yes, Kayla says, is this the best way to rid oneself of the resentment? This is the start. Think about it, Careblazer. Let's say you're caring for somebody who has been rude to you your whole life, who has said mean things to your whole life, right? Well, then why are you doing it? Why don't you just leave? You're choosing to stay, so why are you staying? Maybe because you want to be a better version of yourself. Maybe because you want to be a better person than that person. Maybe because you want to show up with love and compassion in life, regardless of if other people show you the same. You get to decide. I cannot give you your reason. For every single one here, I cannot tell you your reason for caring for your loved one with dementia. But I want you, before we end today, to come up with what is your reason. And do you like your reason? Do you like your reason? Choice versus force. Love this concept. Totally, right? If you have a specific question on codependency, Melanie, you can bring it up on day number 5 and we can address it. Okay, Jeffrey, I choose to live in Colombia because costs of healthcare are lower here. Language is my loved one's problem now, unfortunately. Notice how whatever decision we make, there is a consequence. Every decision we make, there's a consequence. Which one are you going to choose, right? Again, notice every decision we make, there's always the 50-50 of life, right? We're going to go right back to day number 1. Every day we're going to start building on the other, right? There's always going to be the negative challenges. There's always going to be negative, unfortunate circumstances in life, which, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's how are we going to respond to it? And of all the options and choices we have in life, which ones do we want to choose? And so when you think about, like, why you're caring for your loved one with dementia, why are you sacrificing your time? Why are you sacrificing your energy? Why are you sacrificing your money? Why are you sacrificing all the other things you would or could be doing with your day to care for your loved one with dementia? And whatever reason you give me, it cannot be because you have to, right? And whatever reason you come up with, you need to pause and think, do I like that reason? How does that reason feel? Does that reason feel like a good reason, or does it make me feel even more resentful? Does it make me feel frustrated, right? You have to notice the difference, right? So, and then there's the third step. So there's 3 steps to this process today. Number 1, know your reason. Number 2, like your reason. Number 3, you have to remind yourself of that reason, because a challenge is going to happen. A suspicion is going to happen. An accusation is going to happen. Incontinence episode is going to happen. Walking out first thing in the morning without pants on is going to happen. Not being able to meet up with a friend for lunch is going to happen. Not being able to take that vacation is going to happen, right? Spending a Monday evening on a training, right, to learn how to make things easier is going to happen. So why are you doing it? You are going to have to remind yourself over and over again. I'm doing this out of love. I'm doing this because I want to be a loving person. I'm doing this because I do not want to live with the consequence of not being there for the person, right? Now, we're going to work in days to come that this doesn't mean you stop your entire life and you put your loved one and you do everything they need all the time. That's not what it's about. But it's just about, before we can even move forward, you have to know you are not trapped. You are not a prisoner, right? Just like the person who's evading taxes or the parent who's not caring for their child, we all can make choices, right? You can make this choice. And I think you've already made the choice to be a Careblazer, especially because you're here. I know you are a Careblazer and you're choosing to care, but we can't lie to ourselves and say we have no other choice. Well, nobody else is around to do it, right? There's people out there with nobody right now at all. Because your brain, what your brain is going to do, well, first of all, I'm going to talk about this, I think, in day number 4, but like, our brain is trained to always see the negative, right? And there's no shortage of negative happening. 50% of our life, there's going to be some challenging negative things, but also within dementia caregiving, there's so many negative things happening. So what are you going to remind yourself in those hard times? What are you going to say to yourself when you're really pushed in your challenge and you're like, I don't even know why I do it? But you do now. You do know why you're showing up and why you're doing it, right? Your brain is going to go back to telling you you have to. You're going to slip back into feeling like you're trapped. You're going to slip back into feeling like you're a prisoner and there's nothing you can do. And you have to go through what we did today. You know your reason, you like your reason, remind yourself of your reason. It's a 3-step process there, okay? Let's see. So what I want to know, I'm going to read in the comments here, if there's anybody who is feeling they do not like their reason, write your reason and let me know what you don't like about it, or that it doesn't feel good, and let's work on a reason for you. Every time I feel at my wit's end, I always come back to the fact that if I don't care for grandma, she will not get the care she needs. And that thought breaks my heart more than the difficult circumstance. Right, Helen, right? Like, even in the worst case scenario, even when it's hard, we are choosing that hard over the hard, knowing maybe somebody really desperately needs help and we could give it, but we don't want to. And there's no judgment. Some people are choosing not to, right? But you're choosing to do it. So let's make sure you give yourself that credit that you are choosing to do it. These are such questions to ask ourselves. It's making me really dig deep and think, yeah, perfect. Totally. A lot about this entire challenge is going to ask you to question what's going on in your brain, what's going on in your mind, the thoughts you're telling yourselves in our mind, because we're just like our brain, which I get to in another day, the thoughts it thinks and the things that it believes are just the things you've been thinking more often. It's just the things you're used to thinking to yourself. And so many of us are just thinking to ourselves a certain thing, and we've never stopped to question it. We've never stopped to ask ourselves, wait, do I want to believe that? Wait, is this actually true? Wait, did I come up with that, or am I just taking that because of something in my past? We don't ever question it. I want all of you to start questioning, like, okay, yeah, I am choosing to do this. I am choosing this hard path. I know there's going to be negative stuff. I'm choosing it anyway. Guess what? If you chose not to be a caregiver, there's still negative stuff that comes with that, right? You're just choosing this part, this challenge. Yeah. Carol says, I would feel really guilty and worry about what other people would think about me. Okay, so let's stop here, Carol. Do you like your reason? We have an entire day, or at least part of a day, on how to never care about what somebody else thinks about you ever again. It's really good, actually. I love it. It's like one of my favorite things. But you have to ask yourself, if you have the thought, I'm caring for my loved one with dementia because I'm worried about what other people might think of me, how does that make you feel? Do you like that reason? Like, if you like that reason, Carol, if it makes you feel good, like, yeah, that's a good enough reason. That's a good enough reason. I feel good enough that I want to care for my loved one with that reason. Great. If not, we might need to come up with a different reason there, right? Because guess what? Right now, Careblazer, there are people out there who are thinking you're caregiving wrong. You can't please everybody. Everybody's got different ideas about how you're supposed to caregive, right? And as soon as you please your neighbor, you're gonna not please your cousin. And as soon as you please your cousin, you might not please the church member, or you might not please your friend. There is no way to please every single person, and everybody has their own idea of how caregiving is supposed to look, right? So the idea that you're caregiving because you're worried about what people might think of you, people are already thinking it, right? People can think whatever they want. I choose to be a caregiver of my husband of 60 years because I believe this is a life lesson for growth. Tell me about it. That is a beautiful way, Mary, to look at this whole situation. And we touched on it yesterday, right? One of the things we talked about yesterday was like, how can this situation help me grow, right? Even when we're looking at the negative 50, we don't have to like it. We don't have to love it. We don't want to be like positive all the time, but it's like, can I grow through this? And actually, there's an entire day of the challenge that's called growing through challenges that we're going to talk about, right? I'm choosing to take the responsibility of a loving wife. Yes, perfect. Other than the expectation I grew up with, I don't know what my reason is for doing this, except that now it's a fear of what poor care she would get otherwise. No, I don't like this reason. So Terry says, your reason for caring for your loved one is that you don't like that she might get poor care, and you don't like that reason. So Terry, why don't you just stop? Why don't you just leave? Why do you keep caring? Like, dig deep and really question and answer. Like, ask your brain and really think about that question. And you don't have to share it in here if you don't want to, but you're more than welcome to. This is a supportive place. But what is stopping you right now, Terry, from either just completely ignoring your loved one, locking them in some room? Careblazer, please, I am not advising any of this. Do not do this. But I'm really pushing back on your guys' brains who feel kind of trapped or feel like you don't have a good reason. What is stopping you from doing that? What's stopping you from just like calling up a best friend and saying, I'm going to come live with you for a bit? Why wouldn't you do that? What's your reason for still being there and for still showing up, right? For you, it might be because you want to prove to yourself how strong you really are, because you want to show that you're capable of getting through hard times, because you want to show that it's possible to love even when it's not a loving situation. In fact, Careblazer, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek. I have never shared with anybody before. I'm working on a special program for my care course members. And literally I was writing up the first lesson today. So care course members, Thursday, we'll teach on this. When you think about loving somebody, this is going to be a challenge for some of you. When you think about loving somebody, who does that benefit? We think that loving somebody benefits that person, but it doesn't benefit that person. It benefits you. Why would you withhold love? Think about how you feel when you love somebody. When you love somebody, you feel like it feels good to love somebody, right? Your love doesn't jump out and attach to the other person and they feel it, right? You can think about that with like a stalker situation, right? If there's like some stalker who was delusionally in love with somebody and thought they were meant to be together and they were just like obsessed and loved this person so much, that other person doesn't just like, the love doesn't jump from the stalker onto the other person. That other person's probably getting a restraining order, probably freaked out and scared, right? So it's like a lot of times we are withholding love because we think somehow the other person doesn't deserve it or we don't like that person so much. And it's like, well, actually, like we're just withholding it from ourselves. We're withholding our to feel love. And the only thing that creates feeling is our thoughts. So if you don't love somebody or you don't feel like you don't have loving feelings towards somebody or you don't like somebody, it's because of your thoughts about the person. You're not having loving thoughts about the person. You're not having likable thoughts about the person. That is a whole advanced concept. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole. I'll save that for my care course members. But just realize, Careblazer, like, what are you telling yourself about this situation that maybe doesn't serve you? Why are you showing up? What's stopping you from just going to go live with somebody else and leaving your loved one to fend for themselves, right? Placing them can be the most loving thing you can give at a time. Totally, right? Perfect example. Like some people loved ones in a care facility because that is the best thing for them to do. And they feel so good about it. And they might feel relieved and they might feel just confident in that decision because there's help 24/7, because there's people all around, because now they get to show up as the wife again or as the child again and have good conversations. They don't have to worry about all the care tasks. There's nothing wrong about placing somebody in a care facility unless you think there's something wrong about it. There's nothing wrong with keeping somebody at home for as long as possible unless you think there's something wrong about it. Everything is all about how you think. Every single thing in your life. Whatever feeling you have that you are blaming somebody else for, it is always your thoughts about that person. It's never what that person is doing. It's never the situation. Where are my care course members at? Are any of you here? Am I sharing the truth or what? Right? So, Rosemary, oh no, let's see. Because every minute of every day, I tell myself I can do this for one more minute. Yes, Cheryl, I like my reason. Okay, Rose. I think the worst feelings I have about my caregiving comes from her siblings and friends, church members. Yeah. Why do you give them so much power over you though? Right? We're going to get into that, Kevo, in a future day. So I don't want to get too much into it, but like, who cares what those people think? I choose to take care of my terribly declining husband, even before the stroke that continues to damage him. But I get so tired that it makes me cry, like today, when I couldn't get everything done on time and he's demanding that I close the kitchen door because his feet get cold when it's open. Okay, perfect, Rosemary. So thank you for sharing. Here's the deal. You choose to take care of there's two different things here, right? But the two different things you're talking about are day one and day two. This is a perfect example. You're choosing to care for your husband. What is your reason for choosing to care for him? I didn't hear that in this situation. So ask yourself, you don't have to share it. Why are you choosing to care for your husband? Do you like that reason? Okay. Like it's one thing to say, I'm choosing to care. It's another layer to be very clear why you're doing it and do you like it? Number two, I want to say, so you couldn't get everything done and he was very demanding, right? That is your -50. That is the part of life that happened today that you couldn't control, that you couldn't change, right? That's what we talked about yesterday. We also talked about not adding the suffering on by beating yourself up, feeling like it should be different, feeling like things shouldn't be that way, right? And so for you, it's allowing yourself to cry. It's allowing yourself to feel sad. It's allowing yourself to be like, this was a hard day and I'm going to cry and that's okay. Notice how like on our hardest days, like we kind of beat ourselves up about it, or we feel we're really hard on ourselves about it. And just think about it if it was somebody else. Like picture Rosemary, somebody, like imagine there's a Rosemary right in front of you and you're watching her today, and you're watching her husband be demanding, and you're watching him ask to shut the door and his feet are cold. And she is tired and exhausted, and she had a list of things she wanted to do today and she didn't get them all done, and she's crying. What are you going to say to her? You're probably going to love up all on her. You're probably going to say, I'm so sorry. This is really hard. This is a really difficult moment of life right now. This is a really difficult chapter of life right now. Let me give you a hug. You're doing amazing. You're doing the greatest that you possibly could. Anybody would struggle here, right? Like you would probably love all up over that person. How much time, Rosemary, did you spend loving up on yourself today when you went through that day? So that's it. It's like the -50, we accept it. We allow ourselves to feel how it is. Maybe bonus points, you treat yourself how you would treat anybody if you saw them going through that. Number 2, you realize this is really hard caring for my husband. It's a really hard day, really hard days with his demanding ways. And I'm still choosing to do it. And I'm choosing to do it because blank, right? That's the step 3 of today's process. You're choosing to do it because why? You remind yourself of that reason. Now, not getting into the strategy of dementia care just yet, but because I can't help myself sometimes, it's like, okay, he's asking you to close the kitchen door because his feet gets cold when it's open. Is there a workaround there? Is there a way to have non-slip socks on his feet, closed-toed slippers with the heel on the back that are safe for him to use to keep his feet warm? Is there a way to have a little small space heater that's safe for him to warm his feet up, right? What are ways to work around it? Then we can, when we get into that space where we just like love up on ourselves, we're not beating ourselves up, we just accept that this is a hard moment right now. Then after we allow that, we can move to the place of, okay, now, is there anything I can do here differently? Is there anything I could change maybe to make it so I could get more done during the day? Maybe the answer is no, maybe the answer is yes, but at least you allow yourself an openness and allow your brain to go there and start strategizing and getting ideas. We're never going to get to that place. There's no amount of strategies I could ever offer somebody if you're in that position of feeling forced, feeling trapped, feeling like nothing's ever going to work, and then being so upset and frustrated you're in that position. That's how most caregivers are. Most caregivers are so overwhelmed. Like one person today told me he tried to get his wife to sign up, and I saw him today on a Zoom call, and he was like, my wife is just way too overwhelmed to do something like this. And it's like, I get it, right? But she could watch any of my YouTube videos and get any of the strategies. The overwhelm doesn't go away until we learn it's coming from our brain. It is a hard situation. I'm not saying it's not hard. How do we want to view it? How can we make it so that we learn to accept this is the negative part of it? How are we going to respond to it? How are we going to show up to it? How do we want to support ourselves through it? How do we want to remind ourselves, why the heck am I even doing this thing that's so incredibly hard to do? Most people never have the courage and love and sacrifice and dedication to a family member to do what you're doing. Like, give yourself some props and kudos for that. So what if a couple of days you're like, I really hate this. I really feel like I hate my person right now, or I'm really having a hard time with my person right now. Like, make some room for it. That's the -50. Does that make sense, Careblazer? Yeah, crying is a release, then a deep breath. Send me on, coach. Totally. Yeah, totally good to cry. Like, think about crying too. Some people get worked up about crying. What is crying? I'm kind of bleeding into another day when we learn how to accept an emotion, but like literally it's like water coming out of our eyeballs. What's so bad about that? What's so bad about the water coming out of our eyeballs? It's like a nice little eyeball bath. Oh, Tamra, do not beat yourself up. Careblazer, you're never going to beat yourself up into being better, ever. Love yourself up. Love yourself up. I don't care what mistake you made, what you said, what you did. Love on yourself. You are an amazing Careblazer, Tamra. Yeah, it's okay to cry. You just continue on. Totally. Give those eyeballs a bath, Careblazer. Patience is a lifelong goal. It's also like a lifelong practice, right? Like it's not like you say you have patience and you never have to like work on it or practice it again. Yesterday, I was in a yoga class which is supposed to be like a really great group of loving, accepting people, right? Like I consider myself, I'm a yogi. I'm supposed to be loving. Great. Let me tell you, I've like had my struggles the last couple of years. But somebody was like, there's a couple like talking in class, like whispering, but talking. And we're like, it was a surrender class. It was like a restorative yoga. Like it was very quiet. It was supposed to be meditative. And they're just chatting. And I'm like, oh, and in my brain, I'm noticing myself getting worked up. And I'm like telling myself, like, Natalie, this is your work today. Your work today is just to learn to be present right now, regardless of what's going on around you. Like I literally talk to myself that way in the yoga class. If you could hear myself in my brain, I probably sound like really out there sometimes, but like I had to actively work on it and I didn't do very great. Like I came home and complained to my husband about it. Like that's not my proudest moment, right? But we all lose. It's just a practice. So Julie says, I wish I could stop crying some days. It angers me. So let's think about it in terms of day one. Careblazer, we don't ever want to forget what we're building on day to day. Day one was a -50. Things are going to happen in life that we wish didn't happen. For you, Julie, let's say it's the crying. You cried, right? That's the -50. How can we just accept it? Being upset or beating ourselves up for things that have happened will not take away the fact that they have happened. And here's the actual magic of it all. When you allow it, when you don't get so upset for having it or for doing it, you actually allow yourself to move on. You actually allow yourself to move through it, right? What most people do, and I get into it in one day. So again, I don't want to get too far into it, but we try to resist what we're feeling. It's like we feel the tears coming up or we feel the frustration or the anger coming up and we try to resist it. Like, this isn't happening. I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do it. Please don't do it. Oh my gosh, this is so horrible, right? And that's going to make it last longer. I use the analogy of a beach ball. It's like we feel negative emotion coming on, right? And we're like trying to push it away. I don't want to cry. This is awful. And we're pushing the beach ball under the ocean. What happens is at some point, you're going to get so tired, you're going to let go of that beach ball. It's going to pop up higher than ever. You're crying or whatever negative emotion you're talking about, it's going to last longer than if you just allow it, the beach ball, to just float right next to you and just be there right next to you. Beach ball just floating along. And at some point, the ocean like takes it away, right? We don't ever even give ourselves that option. Again, that's a whole nother day in this challenge. But what I want to say to you is like, being angry at your crying is optional, right? It's not a requirement to be angry when you cry. If somebody you loved, Julie, if your child or grandchild or best friend or somebody you cared about deeply was crying, what would you say to them? Would you be angry with them? Would you say, just get over it already? Come on. Why are you crying all the time? It's ridiculous. You would never say that to somebody you cared about, but you talk like that in your mind. Isn't that crazy? Why do we talk to ourselves in our mind like this, Careblazer? You don't have to. This and again, we're on day number 2. I haven't even told you how to change anything. I'm just like, right now, I'm just telling you how the world works. Just telling you how our brain works. I'm just telling you, like, hey, maybe we should question what our brain is doing sometimes, because when we leave our brain unattended, it's like giving a toddler a pair of scissors and saying good luck, or it's like leaving a loved one with dementia who's totally unsafe to drive, manage finances, and cook alone in a home with the car keys right there and the stove and pan right there and the bank account open and a credit card right there. It's like we would never do that, but we let our brains go unattended all the time. We can bring this in. We can actually start to ask ourselves, is what I'm doing making this harder or easier? Right? Yeah, we do. We bully ourselves in our own head. Totally. Let's see. Crying is totally fine. Not crying is totally fine. Totally. I cry when I drive home from my mom's house. I don't feel bad about it. Yeah, yes. Yeah, Beverly says, some days I say, why me to myself? Then I realize it could have been me instead of my husband. I cry happy. Yeah. So you can make that mean, Cheryl, like, I'm afraid that I've grown distant to myself and that's why I can't cry. Like maybe your eyes just don't need a bath right now. Like we don't, sometimes we like to make things like a big deal. And they're only a big deal when we think they're a big deal. Let's see. Yeah, what's the big deal? Melanie says, I'm too afraid of crying. What's the big deal? I'm going to think of your comment on giving your eyeballs a bath. Made me laugh. Totally. I mean, what is it really? Think about it, Careblazer. What is it that the crying? It's literally water from our eyeballs. Yes. I get to instead of I have to as a big challenge. I've been afraid I will have a nervous breakdown. What will make things worse is like jumping to the future. If we spent time, Careblazers, thinking about all the possible things that could go wrong in the future, we're probably going to have a nervous breakdown. I probably wouldn't leave my house, right? I can get in a car accident. Somebody could hold me up and bug me. I could, like, so many things can happen. Somebody could break into my house while I'm away. Like, sometimes I think, oh, my house might go on fire and Nico's inside. Like, my brain is like crazy, right? We have to act like, why? Like, your brain is going to do it. We don't have to make it a big deal, but we have to ask ourselves, like, is that thought serving me right now? Do I want to think that thought right now? Also, if you're somebody who likes to play in this future world of like, what if, why don't you spend some time in the what if something amazing happens? None of us have a crystal ball. None of us can predict the future. None of us are really good at predicting what is going to come, right? We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, let alone what 6 months is going to hold. But our brains are pretty sure whatever it is going to be horrible, right? What about if you're going to make things up in your mind, all the horrible things, make some good stuff up too while you're at it. Might as well. That's all you're doing. You're predicting awful negative things happening that haven't happened yet. So we're just like using our imagination. Use the imagination for something good too. Yes, my mother has always been there for me when I needed her. This is my opportunity to give back. I'm here. Cannot tell you how much this challenge has helped me. It made me all the difference as a caregiver. Oh, so glad, John. Yes, I remember your name from a previous challenge. I'm glad to see you're back. I get weird pet peeves of her stalking, watching while I'm cooking dinner. I cook different food for my client and me because we like different food. I make more simple, bland food for her. She starts making negative comments on the food and says, don't be offended if I don't eat much. I know I'm taking into consideration of her desires, so I don't know why I get so grumpy when she hovers while I'm cooking. Sometimes I can get her scrubbing veggies or folding napkins. Most of the time, I just want to enjoy cooking. Totally, Robin. And like, you could totally go with it too. Like, you know, your thoughts are the only reason you're offended by it, right? You're a care course member, you know this, and you're an amazing caregiver. I know that personally from talking with you. So you can literally be like, what would you add? You were always a good cook. Like, and you can maybe give her own little plate of like, will you season this up for me? What would you do? And maybe it's like the scraps that you were going to throw away, or the lettuce leaves, like the stems or something. Like, getting her involved and active. Like, she wants to feel included. She wants to feel like she has something of value to offer. How can we make it feel that way? And also, you can, when she says something negative like that, sometimes we could take the power away immediately. Be like, I know you were always such a better cook, right? Like, we just like strip away that power right away. Yes. I like that. Is this thought serving me well right now? Right. Okay, so Careblazer, I want to get back and like make sure we full circle around, especially for people like Terry. Now, because today is a hard day, like, I'm asking you, basically, I'm trying to convince all of you that you don't have to be a caregiver. At any point, you can opt out. Most of you have never even considered that. Most of you have never even given yourself the consideration that tomorrow you could just disappear from the life. Tomorrow you could just ignore every single thing your loved one asks. Tomorrow you can just go move in with somebody else, right? You've never even allowed your brain to go there because you've never allowed it to be an option because you don't want it to be an option. But you know that it's there. I know that it's there because I've seen it with my own eyes, right? So just know that that is an option, but for some reason, you don't want that option. For some reason, you want to be caring for your loved one with dementia. And that reason might be because you can, right? And Careblazer, let me free you up a little bit here too. You can always choose differently. Like, for some of you struggling, it's like, well, because I couldn't imagine my loved one being alone. Like, that would be more heartbreaking than it is for me to care for them, right? At some point, You can just decide, I changed my mind, right? There's no contract you signed with your blood that says, okay, you said you're choosing to care for them, and this is your reason you like them, and this is why you're going to do it, right? You can never change your mind. No, you can change your mind any day. But the thing is, just know, like, you're choosing to do this. Why? Why are you choosing to do this? Make sure you like whatever reason you come up with, and then remind yourself of that reason over and over and over, especially on the hard times, because on the hard days and the hard moments, that's going to be the last thing from your mind. The hard days and the hard moments are when you're going to be like, why am I doing this? This is not fair. I don't want to do this, right? That's what your brain's going to do. Your brain's going to go back to the old way, and you have to remember, actually, no. And so for some of you, maybe, don't know your reason yet, and that's okay. Like, I just asked you on the spot. I basically just asked you to do something really challenging. Your brain is probably freaking out. Like, I don't think that lady understands my situation. She just doesn't get it. My situation is totally different, right? Like, your brain is going to resist something that it's not heard before, it hasn't been open to before. Take some time tonight, Careblazer. For some of you especially, like, take some deep breaths, close your eyes a little bit, really center yourself, and just start to ponder on this question. Why am I doing this? Why do I choose to do this really, really hard thing that a lot of people don't choose to do? And then check in with yourself. Do I like that? I don't really like that. Okay. Why else? What more? Like, just keep going back to the drawing board. For those of you who have that workbook, go through the questions. For those of you who don't, ask yourself the questions I'm asking you here, right? Why are you doing it? Brainstorm, set a timer for 5 minutes and just don't stop writing. It can literally be like, you can get all the crappy answers out of the way, right? You can get all of those answers, like, because I have to, nobody else will, can't live with myself. You know, you can say those things, but then get to the heart of it, get to the meat of it. So many of us don't even spend time asking our brain to get to work on these things, right? Marva, if you can't come up with the reason you like, I would just sit with it longer. Like, maybe you didn't come up with a reason you liked on, like, right now today, but and you can also ask yourself, well, then why not just leave? So here, you can do it the opposite way. If you didn't come up with a reason that you liked, then you can ask yourself, why don't I just leave then? And then whatever reason you came up with it then, whatever you said then, you can say, okay, so that's a possible reason. That's a possible reason you're still caring. Maybe the reason is you would rather, like, for instance, let me give an example. Maybe you're caring for your loved one with dementia because, what's a reason somebody might not like? They're caring for a loved one with dementia because nobody else is there to do it, and they would feel guilty. They would feel guilty for not caring for their loved one. And so you ask yourself, do I like that reason? Do I like the reason that I'm only caring for my loved one because I would feel guilty if I didn't? And they're like, no, I don't really like that reason. It's like, okay, so what's so bad about being guilty? What's so bad about, why don't I just feel guilty then? Right? And then your brain's gonna have to get to work and be like, okay, so why don't I just feel guilty then instead of caregiving? And then your brain might open up to some other ideas of, because that's not the type of person I want to be, because I'm up for this challenge in life right now. Right? Like, your brain will come up with, so whatever reason it is that you don't like, ask yourself, why don't you choose that reason then over caregiving, and see what your brain comes up with. Give yourself some time, allow yourself some time to come up with something. But I want you to come up with a reason that you like. You don't have to love it. It doesn't have to be like the greatest thing ever. It doesn't have to be because, like, I love this person or I took a vow. It just has to be something that, okay, I like that. That's a reason that feels good to me to care for somebody, right? Like, if, like, a reason that feels good to me might be that I know I'm going to regret it later if I don't. I know I'm going to question and wonder later if I should have done differently. Like, that might be a reason you like. Like, it doesn't have to be like a reason that sounds good. It just has to be a reason you like for caregiving, and to give yourself some time to ponder it, let it percolate, let your mind think. But I definitely want all of you to have a reason besides the fact that you have to, because as we move forward and get more information in this challenge, if you're feeling like a trapped prisoner with no choice, it's going to be really hard to kind of make some of these changes moving forward. Beautiful. Today, my wife told me when I was putting her clothes back in place after taking her to the toilet for the umpteenth time, "You're a good man, Jeffrey. I live for those moments now. They're beautiful." Yeah. Write that moment down on a piece of paper, stick it in a jar, write it in your journal or whatever, put a date on it, go back and look at that on the times when maybe she's not showing much appreciation at all. Last month, I did explore leaving and what would be the consequences for him and also for me. Last Friday, I decided to stay and I feel at peace. Yeah. There's a big power in just deciding. Like, maybe I just decide for this week I stay and then I reevaluate. You can reevaluate at any moment, at any point. Because his family will lawyer up and clean me out. Okay, so do you like that reason, Lonnie, though? Like, maybe you like that reason. Like, maybe for you, because you want your financial security. That's a fine reason if you like it. Like, we're not trying to come up with a make-believe reason, Careblazer. That's not true. Like, for you, having your being financially secure late into your life might be really important to you. So yeah, this is something I'm choosing to do because I don't want all my money to just to go away. Like, there's no judgment with the reason. Do not think it has to sound great. It just has to be something like, I like that reason for now. All right. Okay, Careblazer. That's what I have for you today, the reasons. Honestly, I don't know. I can't remember what we're talking about tomorrow. I have the two things in my mind. I just don't know what order I put them in. Let me see. Could probably find them for you real quick. What are we talking about tomorrow? Same time, same place. Those of you who have the workbook probably know what we're talking about. Let's see. Okay. Oh, day 3. I love day 3. We're going to talk about your brain, how it works, and how it's bullying you. So, but your challenge today, Careblazer, spend some time thinking about this. Be clear on the reason why you're caring for your loved one. Make sure you like that reason. Not that like you love it in terms of it's the reason you would imagine wanting to care for somebody, like you love them so much, but it's like a reason that you feel good enough to caregive for. Does that make sense? Like, it's wanting to keep your financial security in check for your future. Sounds like a great reason, right? Your brain is a bully. Number 3. Thank you. Oh, look at you guys. You guys are just amazing. Where did the hour go? I have no idea. These hours go by so fast. So Careblazer, thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing for your loved one. Thank you for challenging yourself. Thank you for keeping an open mind. The stuff I'm talking about is challenging. I know it. I know it's not easy, but it's even harder to not do this work. Okay. So I'll be back tomorrow, same time. You'll get a new link right before we go live. And yes, you will. And say that to yourself, like, I'm coming up with my reason. So for those of you who feel like you don't have a reason, you're not going to come up with a good reason being frustrated with yourself. Think to yourself, I'm working on developing a reason I like. I don't know my reason yet, but I know that I have a choice. Even that's powerful. I'm exploring different reasons that feel good to me. Like, think about it in that way. That's how I want you guys to move forward with it. All right. Love to you all. Take care. Have a great Monday night. I'll see you all tomorrow night. Bye.